Washington gets an elite portal pickup.
You are Locked On Huskies, your daily podcast on the Washington Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into another edition of the Locked On Huskies podcast. I'm Roman Tomashoff. That's Lars Hanson. He's site editor with Athlon Sports is Inside the Huskies. I'm the site editor with Huskies Wire. Thanks for making this your first watch or first listen of the day, as we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming at you with a special bonus episode because Lars, Washington just landed a commitment from the number one cornerback in the transfer portal. That's Tacario Davis from Arizona, and there's really no other way to say it. This is a game-changing commitment. This is an elite talent coming to Washington, which is exactly what Jedd Fisch and this coaching staff have been.
So yeah, it's three words. Let's freaking go.
Yep.
Figure out what other pejorative you want to put in there, and because again, this is the move that we thought was going to happen, give or take 10, 11 months ago when Jedd Fisch and John Richardson first made the move. You get a Pearson's price talk, and you think, yeah, there's no way Tacario is not going to come. They both came in the same class. Why not? It's not like, I couldn't tell you who Arizona's defensive coordinator was this year. No slighted. I just couldn't.
Yeah, I straight up forgot.
I honestly, I knew Brent is the one down there, but other than that, it's not Hanson. It's not anybody that he was tied to. And I think his play reflected that this season. And yet he was still all Big 12 second team?
Second team all Big 12, yeah.
And yet he had a better season in 23 under Jay Rich and Fisch, and he was honorable mention all Pac-12. I will say, kind of going back and looking at that season, Jabbar Muhammad was another guy on that list. So there was a few other good cornerbacks in that class in that year. But with that being said, this was the guy that I think, Price Talk is good, but this is getting the Richard Sherman to your Byron Maxwell, as you alluded to the other day. Right? I think it was actually on the first take of the show, but it was, that was a good topic you had. But I guess I like it more like Tacario for me is Richard Sherman, the playmaker, the guy that's going to have the stats, the guy that's going to get tested. And then one of the two is going to benefit if they end up testing Price Talk and then he levels up, because this year as Price Talk as a one, we didn't necessarily see that same level of consistency that we saw when he was opposite Tacario. And that's why there's such an important tandem.
Two things. First of all, yes, as you alluded to, real peel back the curtain here. This is our second take of this. On the first one, we had a lot of Thaddeus Dixon talk about, if, why, like he stays, whatever. So that's a big reason. Yeah, we made a comparison to the LOB in that regard of one playing off the other. And so to point number two, I'm glad you said it that way, because that was when Ephesians Price Talk was at his best, when he didn't have to be the number one cornerback. And as the season went along, we saw Thaddeus Dixon take over that role. We're saving that for another day. Maybe you've already heard that by the time this comes out. Who knows? But I say all that to say, yeah, Ephesians Price Talk as a number two is very beneficial with Tacario Davis, who is somebody who, I said this the other day when he first started getting crystal balls to Washington. When Jeremiah Smith comes in on September 27th, and you need somebody to go toe-to-toe with that guy. Whoever Oregon wants to rely on as a number one receiver, whoever any other passing offenses, like Maryland did a good job with Ty Fenton this past season. I don't think he's going to be around, but whoever you want to say from some of these other number one offense or passing offenses with their number one receiver, paying somebody like Tacario Davis, because let's be real, NIL, all that sort of stuff, whatever that price tag might look like, it is going to be very worth it when you see him go up against those guys. You are going to be very happy with it for those particular matchups, because this is somebody who we're going to dive way more into this. When you look at Ryan Walter's scheme and you say it's going to be a 5-man front, it's going to be really aggressive with a lot of island single coverage on the outside for his corners, that is something that Tacario Davis can thrive in. And we'll get to that on the other side of the break. Right after a message from our good friends over at FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Visit the website, and you can check out so many great offers. For me, I'm a huge fan of Josh Allen for MVP, Jaden Daniels for Rookie of the Year. Those are two of my favorite bets that we've been pushing on this here channel all season long. And again, to do that, just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So, Lars, this Ryan Walters addition is a really, really big part of this. And I kind of want to peel back the curtain a little bit here, because like I said, number one corner, somebody who you can really rely on the outside. And we were kind of thinking, in take one of this show, that Thaddeus Dixon in the nickel is somebody who would really thrive in that role because he'd be able to benefit, and whoever's going to play that nickel position is going to benefit greatly from having Tacario on the outside, because they are the guys that are going to get tested. They are the ones who are going to just put up bigger numbers, because you mentioned the Richard Sherman effect, and that's exactly what it was as his career went on. And that's what we might see this season, where with the benefit of John Richardson's coaching, where this is a guy who is a potential first-round pick. That's the kind of talent that you have. That's why you go out and get him. And now you look at how the rest of the secondary might benefit from that. And it's just exciting to think about, because he is a guy that boosts the level of play of everybody around him.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when you have such a playmaker outside that and I don't know if it was on the Friday show or on the first edition of this show, when I use the Devon Witherspoon example, where I'm not saying it's a like-for-like comparison, but you can start imagining Ryan Walters doing a number of either different things with Tacario or because of Tacario. And I think those are two key points there, because you could leave Tacario out on an island for 65 snaps a game, or you could do maybe like 50, line him up in the nickel a couple of times on a blitz, because he has the size and physicality, I think, to match up and do things like that. And I would also see him, maybe test himself with a run game. If he's able to come up and make, say 4 or 5, 6, 7 TFLs in that kind of situation, that's how you maximize the value of, like you alluded to, you're making a big investment going to get Tacario. Make that investment pay off by his usage, because I agree, yes, having him on an island is great, but there's other sides of where if you're able to get up in a game, let's say 14, 17, and start taking control of the game, you can line him up in other situations and actually force defenses to get off the field quicker. And now you're stacking, points on top of points. And that's how Ryan Walters, I would imagine, would build on this secondary, because I think the other thing to consider is, given that Vinny Cincinnati was the safeties coach, I don't believe they're going to bring in another defensive back coach. I think John Richardson's going to assume the entire secondary. And I think that'll be helpful with Ryan Walters, because Ryan Walters is just the DC. We saw no co-DC title. We saw no co-DC safety, whatever, anything like that. It's just DC. So I think that kind of speaks to the trust that Fisch has in Jay Rich's ability to coach, which is why Tacario thrives so well in that system.
So I agree with you there, but I think there's so much more where I want to just take a step back and just do a 60-second player profile here, because I think that's an important part of all of this, where I'm sure you've gotten questions about this, as I know I have in, the days leading up to this. I know our insiders had a couple of questions about this, where it's, hey, why is this, this NIL for an elite player not being allocated to a lineman where it's needed, or, a pass rusher where you could really use that help? You look at this, and I bring back a quote that Jedd Fisch had in January when he first got here. And he said, we are not going to be in a position to turn down talent. It doesn't matter what talent that position plays. If you're, if that talent is wide receiver and you're bringing in whatever player from the transfer portal, from the high school ranks. So they took 5 high school receivers because they really like them. And they're saying, we don't want to turn that down. That's why they took as many offensive linemen as they did. Because they said, we really like you and we're not in a position to turn any of you down. That's exactly what this is. And again, when you see a couple of these number one receivers and you don't have to worry about what that's going to look like, where it's, oh, who's it going to be? Are you going to bracket him here? Are you going to trust maybe this guy on an island with him? Are you going to try to trust that guy? No, it doesn't matter. It's Tacario Davis. It's Tacario Davis, and that's the end of the story. And you're going to be really happy, because this is why it's such a game-changing commitment when 2026 NFL draft rolls around and here's his name called in the first round, because that's where this is heading. Which we'll get to right after a message from our good friends over at Game Time. Attending the new 12-team college football playoff games is an exciting experience that brings fans together like never before. I remember the excitement of past playoff games. Can't wait to make new memories with the updated format and extra teams involved. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I used Game Time Picks to find tickets for an upcoming game that I wanted to go to some baseball games. I love using it during baseball season. It's fantastic. And browsing through the deals was a breeze. And I found great value for all kinds of seats around the venue. The super deal in particular stood out as the best value for the event. I love that I could see the seat views before buying, and the app shows the total cost upfront with no surprise fees at checkout, plus the on-time ticket delivery and lowest price guarantee gave me complete peace of mind. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKDOWNCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So Lars, let's dive into what this means. Where the DBU factor in all of this is an important thing to consider here, because you can look at, hey, Washington has been able to churn out Trent McDuffie, Kyler Gordon, Elijah Molden, Keith Taylor. You can go back as far as you want, all the way back to Desmond Trufant. And you can say that Tacario Davis really is the next in a long line of those guys. And when you look at what Jedd Fisch is trying to build and trying to establish guys and put guys in the NFL, this is the premier example of that, of a guy who can come in for 1 year, thrive, get back to where he was, where there are some people that I talked to in the NFL world that have him ranked as high as corner 3 or corner 4 in this class, which has Will Johnson, who's a first-round pick, Ben Morrison, who's a first-round pick, Travis Hunter, who's a first-round pick. Like, he was in that category of players. He comes back for another year, and this is somebody who all of a sudden he can be, I don't want to say the face of the program because that's Damon Williams, no matter what way you slice it, but he's somebody who can really level it up. And with Jedd Fisch's NFL selling point, this is the prime example of that.
Oh, Ben Morrison, what could have been there, huh? But no,
yeah, we don't need to go down that road.
No, just when you said that, it was like every time. But no, but it feeds exactly to your point, because had that DBU tradition contained and continued, and Ben came up to Washington, Tacario would, again, be in that similar line of mold, in that line of thought. But I think it gets back to, I think I said it, again, I don't know if it was on Friday or on the first edition of the show, but the Marcus Peters, Kevin King idea. When Chris Peters and Jimmy Lake first came to Washington, you had two long, tall, athletic corners. Now, I'm not saying Tacario is an exact carbon copy of Marcus Peters in every way, shape, or form, but I think it's that sort of thing where look how much Kevin King and the other cornerbacks thrived opposite of Peters when he was playing, because he was such a lockdown threat. I think that's why you go and get that first-round cornerback. So you can go develop Price Hawk as a second rounder, or maybe, top 50 pick and those sort of things. Because you look at the size and their profile both fill out to say, yeah, you guys should be able to hang in the NFL. You guys should be able to make in the NFL.
Yeah.
But you need the coaching also as well. And maybe we should have this slight conversation right now, but just in the sense of look how much Thaddeus Dixon improved. Look how much and I guarantee you, Tacario Davis from 2024 to 2025 will improve insurmountably. Got to go back to his 2023 form, but be even better because he's a year older.
So I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I've wanted, like, this is when I wanted to bring this up. I don't know about you, but when I posted a tweet of the screenshot of Tacario Davis' crystal ball to Washington, I had some Arizona fans in my mentions saying he's washed. He didn't play as well as he did in 2023. And yeah, there's definitely a small violin factor at play here, but I wonder what the biggest difference was, man. I wonder, was it John Richardson? Was it crazy to think about how this guy came in and developed Thaddeus Dixon, who was a perfect ball of clay, just a perfect mold, and put him into all Big Ten honorable mention. I was going to say all Big Ten, like third team, because that's honestly really what he deserved to be, but made him an all Big Ten honorable mention. It's no surprise that those two things correlate. Yeah, this player has otherworldly talent, but he also had an elite position coach in John Richardson.
And so, quick research, Dwayne Aquina apparently was the defensive coordinator.
Oh, yeah, he was. That's right.
But remember how well regarded Dwayne Aquina was, and to his credit, he was, and was especially at Stanford and years past and things like that. But it's like, okay, who gets the actual credit? Is it Pete Kwiatkowski? Is it Jimmy Lake?
Sure.
I think that was the dichotomy. It's like, hey, I'm Tacario. I'll stay with Dwayne Aquina because he was also on staff with Jay Rich when he recruited him. Now, again, Richardson was the primary recruiter, but Dwayne Aquina was on staff, I believe, around the program in some capacity.
That's correct.
I'm sure he would have had a relationship. So I can also see Tacario saying, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll play for him. Maybe he'll prioritize me. And then 12 games later, we're like, oh my God, I need to get out of here. And that's no slight specifically to Aquina, but I think that was the situation, kind of what you're alluding to, where that's why we harp so much on coaching. That's why I said Jamarcus Shepard for the past 2 years under Kalen DeBoer was the defensive back coach and wide receivers coach. Just going to leave that there because it was, the guys were not getting developed, and the growth in Thad, the growth even in EJ, again, he didn't play as much as I'm sure he would have wanted. McEllisteen, another one. Now, again,
Dyson McCutcheon.
Exactly. We go through the list of names, and I think that's also why with Vinny going to Jacksonville State, and it sounds from what I said with CJ Christian saying that he referred to Richardson as the overall defensive backs coach. And I'm just like, well, I think I can kind of see that one coming. And then maybe you add somebody in the front, like we've hinted at before. But I think honestly, having Richardson, having the entire secondary, probably with Armand Hawkins playing a significant role in there as well, that talent that they got at Arizona and that they've cultivated this offseason through the transfer portal, Tacario was the missing piece there. Like, getting the safeties is good. Getting some other pieces is good. And getting the young guys, the Dylan Robinsons of the world, very, very important on a year in, year out basis. But you still got to go and get Tacario to prevent TDs, and that's what Tacario Davis does.
Lars, as always, thank you so much for being here. Thank all everydayers tuning in. We really do appreciate your support. We got so much more fun stuff coming for you throughout the offseason. So please make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. We're there. We're everywhere. We're updating this channel through content every single day. So make sure you click that like button, click that little bell so you don't miss when we post a new video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, drop them right down below in the comment section. And if you're audio only, please leave us 5-star reviews. It does help us out a lot. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.